Certainly. Below is a 1300+ word YouTube script about the T-55 missile, assuming you mean the T-55 tank and its missile systems, as the T-55 itself is a tank, not a missile, including the current market price information and historical context. It begins with the channel intro in Thai and maintains a documentary, engaging tone suited for YouTube. Swastikrabthakan yindicharabsukung wheel warriors chungdapakundian thangzulokung thang yankarali theknaloyakatharkake tholik thakunkikawamru kwamring leaflangthale zyalumkid tide tamlik kradin kangcharawili crab. Today, we're diving into the story of one of the most iconic tanks ever built, the T-55, and more specifically, the missile capabilities it gained through upgrades over the decades. A tank that once rolled across the battlefields of the Cold War is still being used in many parts of the world today, and yes, you can still buy one, if you know where to look and have the money to spare. So, what exactly is the T-55? Originally developed by the Soviet Union right after World War II, the T-55 was a revolutionary design for its time. It was an evolution of the T-54 tank and included a host of improvements that made it faster, more reliable, and more dangerous on the battlefield. The T-55 entered production in the late 1950s and quickly became one of the most widely produced tanks in the world. Over 100,000 units were made by various Soviet and Eastern Bloc factories, and many of them were exported to countries across Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and Latin America. But here's where it gets interesting: the original T-55 didn't have guided missile capabilities. That technology came later, through modernization programs. Several countries, including the Soviet Union, Poland, China, and even Vietnam, began upgrading their T-55s to fire anti-tank guided missiles, ATGMs, giving them a new lease on life in modern warfare. The most common type of missile upgrade for the T-55 was the addition of systems that allowed it to fire the 9M117 Bastion or A-10 Stabber missiles through its main gun. These are laser-guided or semi-automatic command-to-line-of-sight (SACLOS) missiles that dramatically increased the tank's striking power. With these upgrades, a T-55 could engage enemy armor at distances up to 4,000 meters, well beyond the range of traditional tank shells. Imagine this: a tank designed in the 1950s being able to destroy a modern main battle tank from over 4 kilometers away. That's a serious force multiplier. In fact, some T-55 variants were even fitted with night vision systems, reactive armor, and improved fire control systems to help target and guide these missiles. These changes transformed the T-55 from an aging steel dinosaur into a surprisingly capable platform, and all at a relatively low cost. So, where is the T-55 still in use today? The answer is, more places than you'd think. Dozens of countries still keep T-55s in reserve or active service, particularly in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. Some of the most heavily modified T-55s are used by countries like Syria, North Korea, and even some paramilitary forces. In Thailand, for example, the T-55 AM2 variant was in service for decades before being replaced by newer models, but many units still exist in storage or as training vehicles. Now, let's talk about the price. How much does a T-55 cost in today's market? Prices vary greatly depending on the condition, variant, and included systems. A basic, non-operational T-55 suitable for display or restoration might cost between $30,000 to $50,000 United States dollars. But a fully functional, upgraded T-55 with missile firing capability, you could be looking at $100,000 to $200,000 USD, and that's before transportation, legal paperwork, or demilitarization, depending on the country of sale. On the black market or in conflict zones, the price could be much lower, but buying a tank there comes with obvious risks and legal consequences. Some private collectors in the United States, UK, and Europe have managed to purchase demilitarized T-55s through legal channels, often for museum displays or historical reenactments. In Thailand, such purchases are subject to strict military and governmental regulations, and owning a working tank is virtually impossible for a civilian. Still, the idea that you can buy a tank, a real, functioning tank, for the price of a luxury car is mind-blowing. That's the power of surplus military hardware. Let's go a bit deeper into the missile aspect. When the T-55 fires a missile like the 9M117, it uses a system called gun-launched missile technology. The missile is loaded into the main gun tube just like a regular shell. Once fired, it deploys fins and begins its flight toward the target, guided by laser or wire, depending on the model. These missiles are capable of penetrating up to 600 mm of rolled homogeneous armor, RA, enough to seriously damage or destroy many modern tanks, especially if they hit from the side or rear. That's impressive, considering this system is mounted on a platform that's over 60 years old. Of course, there are drawbacks. Compared to modern tanks, the T-55 is lightly armored, lacks advanced targeting computers, and is vulnerable to airstrikes and modern anti-tank weapons. But for countries with limited defense budgets, upgrading a T-55 to fire missiles is a cost-effective way to remain competitive on the battlefield. Some nations have taken the T-55 even further. For example, the Tyran 5 is an Israeli upgrade of the T-55, featuring new engines, fire control systems, and NATO-standard weapons. The Type 59 is a Chinese copy of the T-55 that has been continuously upgraded and exported around the world. These variants often include missile firing capability as part of their modernization packages. There are also experimental versions where the T-55 was used as a missile carrier without the main gun. These rare variants had missile launchers mounted directly onto the turret and were intended for long-range support roles. While not widely adopted, they showed the adaptability of the platform. Now, let's shift gears and think about the collector or enthusiast perspective. Owning a T-55, even a non-operational one, is a dream for many military history buffs. The tank's classic silhouette, its Cold War legacy, and its relatively affordable price make it a popular choice. Several restoration groups and museums around the world focus on T-55s, bringing them back to working condition and showcasing them at events and military fairs. But restoring a T-55 is no small task. Spare parts can be difficult to find, especially for missile components. Fuel and maintenance costs are high, and in some countries, you'll need special licenses to own even a deactivated tank. That said, the T-55's simplicity and robust design make it easier to work on than modern vehicles, which are often packed with electronics. For anyone considering buying a T-55, especially one with missile capabilities, it's important to consult legal experts and military surplus dealers who specialize in armored vehicles. The tank itself might be old, but the laws around importing and owning such equipment are very modern and very strict. So, to wrap this up, the T-55 is more than just a relic. With missile upgrades, it remains a dangerous and capable machine. Whether on the battlefield, in a museum, or sitting in a collector's garage, the T-55 continues to fascinate people around the world. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Wheel Warriors. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep those engines running and the tracks rolling. See you in the next one. Let me know if you'd like a Thai voiceover script, English subtitles, or a version split into on-screen visuals and narration.